subsequent conversations on subsequent days, but on this historic one, I'm very grateful to have been joined by the Reverend Al Sharpton, Donna Edwards, Michael Steele. Thank you so much. As we continue to watch this vote in the Senate, our live coverage picks up now with The Beat with Ari Melber. Hi, Ari.
Hi, Nicole. I want to hold you over for another minute, although you've been doing plenty of work over this momentous day. But I'm curious what you think about what you were, of course, discussing with some of your panelists, but the larger imperative here. Does this break through? How does this vote, which is important for all the reasons you've been covering, does it get the country to take another look at how the Senate operates today, or is that hard to do?
So, I mean, all I have is history and my own reporting on this. And history would show that when Mitch McConnell obliterated the filibuster to push through judges, his power rose in his own caucus, and his political power rose in his state, as did that of Republicans. So the idea that there's political peril in doing away with it, I think, is faulty. The other thing that I hear more and more on TV, and I hear a whole lot off TV, is that there's political peril in leaving it in place. There's political peril in the Democrats going out to their voters in 2 years and saying, guns, I know we got 85% of the public clamoring for something about the epidemic of mass shootings, but we can't get through the filibuster. Infrastructure, we had to go small because Joe Manchin wanted it to be bipartisan. Voting rights, yeah, I'm so sorry. That drop box you left your ballot in the middle of the pandemic, fini. I mean, I think there's real political peril in all this failure to deliver in 2 years. So I think they're choosing between bad and worse. And I think today the worse is leaving the filibuster in place.
Yeah, it's really striking when you lay it out like that, because sometimes the doomsday arguments only seem to run in one direction. Oh, what if we do this? What if they do this and it doesn't work? You're saying, well, what if you don't do it? What is the cost to that? Particularly if you have to go back to the voters after everyone said 2020 was this historic, important election. You go back and say, well, we couldn't get more things done. We just couldn't. I'll give you the final thought, and then of course we're going to bring in our next round of experts as we watch the voting.
Well, it was just an image. I mean, I asked Beto O'Rourke, I said that, for me, having spent time in the party formerly known as Republicans, I don't know what they are now. I mean, the question now is, can Democrats fight like Republicans who just don't lose any sleep? They don't break a sweat over getting rid of I mean, the filibuster isn't even a law. It isn't in the Constitution. It's a norm. And if we learned anything over the last 4 years, Republicans won't just walk over the norms. They will burn them down to get what they want. So I think the story is the enduring story of the Trump years. For 5 years, Democrats have brought knives to gunfights.
Yeah, I think you just hit it on the head. It's a norm, and if one wants to argue that at some point in the past it was a norm that bred some negotiation, fine, that's a nice history lesson. It's certainly not how it's being used this year. It's certainly not how it's being used on that floor right now on these critical issues, as you say. Nicole, always good to report and chat with you.
Thank you so much, my friend. Have a great show. I'll go watch.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I want to welcome everyone to The Beat. Obviously, you are watching us here. I am Ari Melber, and we're right in it. This is a live coverage of this Senate vote on a bill to do a lot of things. Number one, to overhaul the way elections work in this country. Number two, to protect your voting rights. Now, Democrats pushing for these protections. Republicans are all stampeding towards another filibuster. So this is what they call technically a procedural vote, because the vote is on whether to actually bring the entire merits of the legislation to the floor, where then you would have the real vote. Republicans planning to block even that.
There is a rot at the center of the modern Republican Party. Donald Trump's big lie has spread like a cancer. They don't even want to debate it because they're afraid.
What could be more hypocritical and cynical than invoking minority rights in the Senate as a pretext for preventing debate about how to preserve minority rights in the society?
That's just some of the impassioned debate we've been seeing on the Senate floor. There is an even split. The vice president returns to Washington to preside over the vote. Republicans expected to block all of this with the filibuster. This is that Jim Crow era relic that I was just discussing with Nicole that no doubt you've heard of in the context of so many Washington fights. Now, if you want the numbers, this is what's going on out there. 14 states, 22 new laws, all running against your right to vote. Indeed, if you tally up proposals, there's over 300 bills going on this largely GOP voting crackdown. That is a map of America, but it's also a map of how widespread it is to make voter suppression policy. Now, Republicans, for their part, say, basically, those proposals, the map you saw, they say it doesn't really exist.
There's no widespread effort to stop voters from casting a ballot, and there's no desire to hand states' constitutional authorities over to the federal government. Our Democratic colleagues are struggling to accept this reality.
Reality has been up for